don't sip from no flash. Still on the move on the spirit of my gas. I'm on me, you can check out the glass. Never won't smoke, I'm prepared for the class. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fat charge. Got on my side, I don't got it at card. Pressure was real, the anointing been large. Sip from the flash, still on the move on the spirit of my gas. I'm on me, you can check out the glass. Never won't smoke, I'm prepared for the class. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fat charge. Got on my side, I don't got it at card. Pressure was real, the anointing been large. I rock in the light like a drip of a star. Cause I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice. My thoughts had a binding, flesh in my ear like spit for the county. Bitch at you, but the trigger was tempting. Whole lot of demons in the section I'm stepping. We ain't got a drum or a hole like a stick. Thank for the Lord, every ride gon' hit. Close to the slide, it was running like bait. I carry that text like a windshield whip. Flex that flex, feel that rest. I was 10 toes down in the spiritual test. Came from the dirt, still cleaner than most. Flesh won't toast, but the spirit won't boast. There with those laws, I be catching that bird. Let's over revenge, but the Lord says spur. Fast like collar with the engine on red. Put it in park after old me dead. I got the juice, I don't sip from no flash. Still on the move on the spirit of my gas. I'm on me, you can check out the glass. Never won't smoke, I'm prepared for the class. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fat charge. Got on my side, I don't got it at card. Pressure was real, the anointing been large. I rock in the light like a drip of a star. Cause I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice. Gave me the juice, but it came with the blessing. Get so many nights, turn pain into blessing. This won't place, I just wanted confessions. The pain won't dip, so I dug through the lessons. Wasn't no cap in my knee when I bow. Peter said speak, so I prayed out loud. Old crew sin, so I switched my crowd. Craving with saints, not chasing the cloud. Spirit said spin, spirit said build. Bless said feast, spirit said steal. Bless said slide, spirit said kneel. Now I'm bulletproof, walking in the king's wheel. I got that gold like a Moses to sin. Bible in hand, that's a loaded in 10. All in my cup like it came from the prison. Ain't chasing no fame, just battle the flesh. I got the juice, I don't sip from no flash. Still on the move on the spirit of my gas. I'm on me, you can check out the glass. Never won't smoke, I'm prepared for the class. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fat charge. Got on my side, I don't got it at card. Pressure was real, the anointing been large. I rock in the light like a drip of a star. Cause I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice. I got the juice, I don't sip from the flask. Still on the move, Holy Spirit, my gas. On me, you can check out the class. Devil won't smoke, I'm prepared for the clash. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fat charge. God on my side, I don't got to act.
This isn't your average debate. This is Prime, the flagship battleground of Conversa Series Debate League. Every legend started on a stage where words cut deeper than swords. Every 2 weeks, intellect meets intensity, logic meets legacy, and only one question remains. What's a titan to a legend? Conversa Series Prime, where legends are made.
Are you not him?
Are you not entertained? Listen, welcome to the first episode of Versus Series Prime. Now, this is our flagship bi-weekly show where we're going to either bring y'all a debate, a face-off, an interview, an introduction, or a presentation. But we're going to do something related to the Versus Series every 2 weeks right here on Prime. Now, it's always circumstances where that may not be able to happen. Whether it's a holiday, hopefully it's not what I just experienced this past week. But whatever those circumstances are, we'll try to get the word to you ahead of time. But we're going to ride these Prime episodes out to each pay-per-view or premium live event. Again, I said it on Debate Center. It's going to be $9.99 for the 2-day events, $11.99 for the 3-day events. I don't think you can beat that, getting 2 or 3 debates for that price. So hopefully everybody that's rocking with me here will rock with me over there. That being said, y'all know what it is, man. The reigning defending academic champion, Cedrick Ortega, is defending that title against the one and only Cut 'em Up Courtney, the one of many barbarians over here in the Versus series. Listen, y'all know what these brothers bring. Y'all know what these brothers do. I'm going to get out y'all way. Y'all shouldn't see me till it's time for the judges to render their decisions. That being said, y'all know who the best moderator in the business is. The next best host besides me, ODMG, the one and only Mr. Cannon.
You already know what it is, man. Appreciate everybody for being here. Just want to say shout out to the channel, shout out to our subscribers. Listen, we doing something new with the channel too. If some of y'all may notice that the format in which you are watching may be vertical, like on your cell phone. Do me a favor, if you like how it look, please give us a thumbs up in the comments, just so we can know what we doing, just in terms of the technical side of things. Let us know if you see it. If you don't like it, some of y'all can hit the button and change it to landscape mode if you're not watching on YouTube from your computer. Let us know so that we can make those adjustments. Anyway, after that, I just wanted to say, listen, we got a beautiful debate between 2 heavy hitters, Cedrick versus Courtney Thompson. We are going to do an intro, and then we're going to go right into the first 3 minutes. Courtney, I believe, has the affirmative. Before we start, y'all have any questions?
Quick mic check. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Sound good. Say, do a mic check for me.
Mic check, mic check. Said, mic check. Another day at the office.
Sounds good to me. All right, Courtney, go ahead and introduce yourself. After you introduce yourself, let me know when you're ready to start your time. I will give you 3 minutes on the clock after your introduction.
What's up, everybody? My name is Courtney Thompson, aka Cut 'em Up Court, the Barbarian. But tonight, y'all can call me Cut 'em Up Court, the Barbarian and Archaeologist. I hope to have a beautiful academic discussion tonight. Because last I checked, that's what the debate title was about. The issue is about tonight. That belt.
Okay. All right. So now that we got that out the way, we are now going to start your time at 3 minutes. Let me know when you are ready.
Can you share my screen, please?
All right. I'm going to full screen layout. All right. I'll start when you start.
If you don't mind, also please remove the Versus series thing.
All right, 1 second. Let me get the banner out of here for you. While we doing that, I just wanted to say shout out to everybody in the chat. Let me see. Let's find out which one it is. The Versus series. Let me just find that in here for you. Bet. All right. How's that?
Thank you very much.
Perfect.
All right.
I'll start when you start.
Is there archaeological evidence for the story of the biblical Exodus? Guys, that is the nature of tonight's debate topic. We have some preliminary issues to get to. Today, there is a dispute between myself and my opponent. He asserts no archaeological evidence exists for the biblical story of the Exodus, while I affirm the exact contrary. And interestingly enough, you guys will find out a lot of academics have no problem with affirming that reality. Tonight's debate is not about, is there archaeological evidence of the plagues? Does God exist? Is the Bible literally true? Is there evidence for Moses in archaeology? Is there scientific proof for Moses splitting the sea with the staff? Because that's not even what the text says. Did Israel's conquest happen? Or is there scientific proof for millions leaving out of Egypt into the Sinai of the Israelites? My argument is going to go as follows, guys. Number one, archaeological evidence includes both direct and indirect material finds that reasonably support the story of the biblical Exodus. There are indirect archaeological finds that are consistent with and supportive of the biblical story of the Exodus. The absence of direct archaeological evidence does not invalidate a claim if indirect evidence supports it, and if direct evidence is usually unlikely to be recoverable. Conclusion, archaeological evidence does exist for the biblical story of the Exodus. Now, when we set up this debate, my opponent jumped right out the window, not knowing the academic literature or the fact recent conferences have been held on this very issue. He actually thinks the biblical text is a myth, a feel-good story. Isn't that interesting? Because skeptical, non-believing scholars say the contrary. In fact, Donald Redford says, this is a curious resort, for the text doesn't seem like mythology. The biblical authors clearly thinks he is writing datable history. We cannot come to tonight's discussion in a non-critical, dogmatic-led fashion.
45 seconds.
Thank you. We must be consistent when considering the artifact of the biblical data, because it was found in ancient finds and in ancient sites, and the ancient Near Eastern literature and the archaeological data that is extant for these issues. Hold me accountable and my opponent accountable according to the issue of tonight's debate, which is archaeological data. Do not say, oh, there should be a record that exists. If you didn't know, guys, all of the official 13th century archives from the Eastern Delta are no more. We only have a few traces of them. And just imagine trying to reestablish, by means of a few wine dockets, the last parliamentary situation in Europe or our last American presidency. Thank you.
All right, that was pretty good, my guy. You stayed right on beat. So, okay, we're going to switch to my brother, Cedrick Ortega. Let me remove this from the screen. All right. Would you like me to set up your presentation as well and bring it on screen? Or
Yes, sir. I'm going to jump over to it. Just a second. When I'm ready, I'll tell you to bring it up. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Cedrick Ortega of the Pseudo Killers, known as the Pseudo Slayer over here. You can see on my shirt, no flim flam. My opponent already started off with flim flamming and with the title. So tonight we're going to expose the flim flam, because that's exactly what he attempted to do. He's already conceded the debate, ladies and gentlemen. He's pretty much conceded the debate. Once you see how he tried to switch up the title. With that, let's get to work.
All right, I will start your 3 minutes once we've put everything.
Start my time when I start speaking, please. Yeah, when you hear me start speaking, you start my time. Okay,
you got it. Let me make this larger for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, faith versus fact. What archaeologists tell us? Oh, no. Okay, my bad. Okay, I'm sorry. Just start my time over. I'm sorry.
Okay, go for it.
Start my time over. Is there archaeological evidence for the biblical story of the Exodus? Ladies and gentlemen, that is the title of this debate. Faith versus fact. What archaeology tells us about the Exodus? Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's debate asks whether there's archaeological evidence for the biblical Exodus. That question has an objective standard. To confirm the Exodus as an actual historical event, archaeology would need to reveal material, textual, or environmental evidence consistent with the biblical account. Traces of large Semitic population departing Egypt, artifacts or encampments across the Nile corresponding with the 40-year migration. Egyptian records of a catastrophe, economic collapse, and the loss of a slave population. The correlated destruction layers in the Canaan showing sudden external conquest under Joshua. In addition, the Exodus would literally history. It would need explicit independent cooperation of its central miracles, the plagues, the parting of the Red Sea, water from the rock, manna from heaven, a guiding pillar of fire, and the fall of Jericho's wall. There is no, these are not symbolic details. They are presented as in the text as physical, world-altering events. But my opponent is running away from this. Yet, after more than a century of intensive excavation by Egyptian, Israeli, and international archaeologists, none of these evidentiary requirements have been met. There is no Egyptian inscription describing mass enslaved escape. The Sinai yields no settlement debris, pottery, tools, or burial consistent with a migrating nation. The destruction layer in Canaan do not align chronologically with the biblical story, and no geological or hydrological data corroborate a Red Sea parting or the plagues. The absence of is not a minor gap. It is a comprehensive silence across every field that could conceivably preserve such an event. As Inkwell, Finkelstein, and Silverman, and Daver, and Redford each note, no archaeological pattern, inscription, or dataset sustains the Exodus narrative as history. Courtney will attempt to disguise this silence behind speculation, what he just did, by interpretation. That's it, folks. Well, we getting into this because you see the obvious flim flam. With that, I yield the floor.
All right. We are going to go into the first round. That was the 3-minute openings. Let me remove this from the screen. Hold on. Let me fix this back up. Add the screen. Courtney, are you available? Are you ready?
Mic check 1 2. Can you hear me?
Sound good to me. All right. I have your presentation on the screen. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good to go. I'm starting it at 15 minutes. I'll start when you start.
All right. Thank you very much. Alrighty, guys. I'm so glad that my opponent is the one that created the title. And guess what? There is no absolute difference or substantial difference between my title or his. I'm glad we're here to talk about if there's archaeological evidence for the biblical Exodus or not. Again, guys, let's remember my syllogistic argument for tonight. Archaeological evidence includes both direct and indirect material finds that could reasonably support the biblical Exodus. There are indirect archaeological finds that are consistent with and supportive of the biblical Exodus. The absence of direct evidence does not invalidate a claim if indirect evidence supports it, and if direct evidence is unlikely to survive, just like all those Ramsonite period administrative records. Therefore, archaeological evidence exists for the biblical story of the Exodus. I will be talking about the Bible and using it as a generally reliable historical record, just as I will be doing when critically analyzing the ancient Near Eastern record and archaeological data. And by the way, guys, my date for the Exodus, if you didn't see my last debate, is 1265 BCE. I am again arguing that there is an abundance of indirect evidence from archaeology, and the Bible can be correlated with it as a Smithson-Laban. We'll get into what that means later. But if I show any evidence that correlates with the biblical text as it relates to this Exodus, my opponent is lost. And y'all can't wait for this. Now, first and foremost, guys, what is archaeology? Has anybody actually studied archaeology in here? I actually have. Under Lorenzo Nigro, the current lead excavator at the site called Tel El Sultan, or Jericho. But we're not even going to debate that because that's not the story of the Exodus. That's not even in the book of Exodus. Nonetheless, what archaeology is the limited to the physical remains of antiquity. They attempt to find at archaeological sites data, whatever it is that remains, and archaeologists sort of function as sociologists when it comes to functioning as an archaeologist in the modern age. And guys, we need to understand that the study of archaeology is essentially the science of rubbish, because scholars are glad to find ancient trash heaps, by which they spend the majority of the time digging out, looking for material. And if literature is found, it's often found in fragile and ruined conditions. We have to understand, guys, these median deposits, garbageology, trashology is the real reality of archaeology. These discoveries may not be glamorous, as you are often considered to think that this is how they are, but in fact, they highlight the reality of the field. We have to remember, guys, since 1903, a site like ancient Migdol has been studied and excavated. They're less than 25% completely excavating the site, and it's been continuously excavated since 1903. Out of the 6,000 sites in Israel, the most excavated place in the world, only 500 sites have been excavated, but less than 50 have really had major excavational work. Isn't that amazing? Don't let me talk about Egypt, because it's much worse for Egypt when it comes to the excavational material. And we'll get there. But guys, we need to pay attention. Archaeology, in all reality, is an ancillary science for history. It only does certain things when it comes to the literary accounts. And the importance of archaeology becomes very little once written records become plentiful. Smithson-Laban, that means a life setting. So again, if I'm able to show a Smithson-Laban in the archaeological record for the biblical story of the Exodus, my opponent is lost. We should not come to this debate with an assumption that no evidence, i.e., no evidence of this, no evidence of that, no evidence. That's called arguing from negative proof. That is a logical, fallacious mode of rationale as it relates to history, and in this case, archaeology. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You gotta have something. And sadly, my opponent has nothing to argue positively for tonight. As it relates to archaeological evidence, you have basically two types, direct and indirect archaeological evidence. Now, direct evidence is pretty much the explicit type that everyone wishes they had, but the majority of archaeological finds produce indirect evidences.
As described as a historical event, what evidence would we expect to find in the textual sources and the material culture more generally? Do we have any such evidence?
Writ large, there is a great deal of evidence for the Exodus narrative in Egyptian data. Didn't expect me to say that.
I know, guys, because there actually is. If you watch this video, it will fascinate you, because she takes the BTOC hypothesis as it relates to the biblical data and the archaeological data and the correlation of them at a certain time period, which is essentially my time period. Now, guys, let's look at the number one thing. Is there evidence of them actually abandoning the site that they said that they lived at for a very long time? I'm going to argue yes. And by the way, there is evidence of the Israelites as slaves in Egypt. We know for a fact that Ramses kept record of brick production with targets that were set, quotas that were made in the Lourdes leather scroll. And corvée slave labor was common, especially during the reign of Ramses II. And we'll get to other things. Now, Avaris, the land of Goshen, P. Ramses. This is the place in which the Israelites claim to have left out of. We have evidence from essentially occupation of an urban population from the time of the Hyksos until the 18th dynasty, when the population slowly dwindled. But we have to remember, Ramses II came through and rebuilt a whole lot of stuff 2 kilometers away from this location. Where were those people likely living initially? At Avaris. And we have evidence at Avaris until the Ramsonite period of an urban population there. Does that mean there's evidence of an abandonment? You're absolutely right, guys. Around 50,000 urbanites, according to Medford BTOC. He says 50,000 urbanites left the area in the 19th dynasty, likely during the reign of Ramses II. We actually have evidence of this, guys, because all over from region G5, region G3, region G4, G8, and G4, G3, all of this evidence and archaeological data produced Ramsonite period cemeteries. This is just some of what that archaeological data looks like, guys. So we know that the site actually did become abandoned. And the site became abandoned during the reign of Ramses II, because guess how you guys normally, how stratigraphy is usually dated? By means of either pottery shards or scarabs as it comes to Egypt. Now, we have a lot of evidence, and I went through a lot of this direct evidence. I'm going to go through direct and indirect evidence for some of this stuff. Exodus 1:11, the Israelites said that they built storage cities for both P. Ramses and Pithom. We also have direct evidence of Sukkoth in the archaeological record, and we have indirect evidence of Sukkoth in the archaeological record in Anastasia Papyri 4. We have indirect archaeological evidence during the very same time period, 19th dynasty, of Goshen. We have indirect evidence of where Goshen likely was. According to this well-acclaimed Oxford University Press scholar, James Hoffmeyer, it was in the Wadi Tumulite. And again, that agrees with what Metro Bitoc says. Pithom. We know that Pithom or Tel el-Rataba, it used to be thought that Tel el-Maskuta was the original place for Pithom, but that's false. They've done excavations, they found locations for storage cities, and they found the actual temple. It's been excavated, the fortifications and such go back to the time of Ramses II. We have some indirect evidence in literature for other toponyms mentioned where the Israelites left out of, from Belzphon, Pi-Hahiroth, and Migdal. And we wish we knew where Migdal was, but it might be underneath a banana field, very close to the dwelling of the lion. Yam Suf happens to be over here as well. Now, if you paid attention, guys, Anastasia Papyri 3 mentions many of these very same toponyms in the reverse order. So that means that they're likely toponyms coming from the Sinai into P. Ramses. The Bible has it the opposite direction. We know for a fact that these toponyms do not occur no earlier than the 19th dynasty. So I've already shown good archaeological evidence for the abandonment. Now we have to remember, where did they leave from? Egypt. What did Egypt have? A pig taboo. We'll get to that in a second. Now, when it comes to their exit, they got to the Red Sea, and the Lord said that he moved the sea with a strong eastern wind, right? Now, did you guys know that there actually is some scientific evidence on this fact? That is, if possible, scientifically. Didn't my opponent say if he's able to not prove that scientifically, then it means that you have already lost tonight's debate, sir. If you want to see what this looks like, just continue to watch, guys. On the bottom, you'll actually see the demonstration from the peer-reviewed article that I just shared in a slide before. And here's evidence that people can walk in slightly stronger wind straights on a helipad and survive. People want to just be flying around. I'm from Chicago. I'm used to strong wind gusts. That's unbelievable. Pay attention to what's going on the bottom, because all you need is 4 hours worth of 63-mile-an-hour wind gust consistently to move the area by which the Israelites likely transferred through in the Yam Suf crossing. Now, has anyone ever asked what's the earliest account of this? According to Medford Bitoc, Cross, and Gary Rosenberg, the earliest record of this, we could also add Richard Elliott Friedman. The earliest account of this is in Exodus 15. This is part of the biblical story of the Exodus, guys. And
5 minutes.
Thank you. According to most scholars, this is perhaps written only a generation or two beyond the events in which happened. According to the memory scholars, they say that you can't have real history conveyed through literature if it's beyond 3 to 6 generations. And this is between 1 to 2. Unbelievable. More indirect evidence of, guess what? People named slaves leaving sent through a similar route that the Israelites took, trying to run away during the Ramsonite period in the late Bronze Age. Unbelievable. So we have direct evidence of this. Now, where did they go after they got to Yam Suf? Straight through the Sinai. Now, we have to know something concerning the Sinai, guys.
The archaeologists among my colleagues say, well, we've combed the Sinai, we haven't found anything. That doesn't prove there wasn't an exodus.
And in fact, later on in this very same lecture from Richard Elliott Friedman, he talks about how within the last 10 years, there was a recent finding there that was actually lost from the last war that happened in the very same terrain. And under 16 meters worth of sand, they found the item. 16 meters beyond the sand, they found the item. Just imagine some of the archaeological difficulties when it comes to combing the Sinai. It was 5 trucks, guys. There was no such thing as combing the Sinai done by archaeologists. That is a myth. Now, after the Israelites leave into Canaan, Moses tells them that a hornet will go out before you and get rid of all of the people that are in the territory by which they will inhabit. Doesn't this sound like Merneptah's conquest? Especially since the word titzra or hornet is this disputed word, we can actually understand this as a possible play on words. Titzra, Mitzrayim. This might be a direct or indirect reference to the Merneptah conquest, which happens right around here, about 50 years or so after the time I say that they exit. Interesting. And by the way, most scholars take the Merneptah Stela as a datum point to say the Exodus had to have happened then. Why? Because they're not in Egypt, they're in Canaan.
Merneptah. There are 2 place names in the Bible that are named after Merneptah. The first is Kadesh Barnea, Numbers 34:4, where Barnea is a corruption of Ba and Re, which is the throne name of Merneptah.
Did you guys know that? Nonetheless, this location, Kadesh Barnea, actually sits on a floodplain. So that means that the site experiences heavy floods yearly. This might be part of the reason why there's very little evidence before the 10th century of any dwellers there. We also have Merneptah's name mentioned in the Bible around the time they enter into the land of Canaan. Isn't that interesting? This is according to the standard Hebrew lexicon of the academics. That's the type of debate we're having, guys, an academic debate. My 5th argument is very simple. 50? Okay. My last argument is very simple. The ethnic markers in these later locations, right? We're going to notice that at the Mount of Ebal, where Joshua first located himself at, Adam Zatal and the Israelites, Adam Zatal says that location is around the same time of the exit. And by the way, guys, we find 4-room houses and no pigs at these locations. And soon afterward, when Israel begins to populate the whole territory, there's no pig at these places. The 4-room house structure is also a common understanding, according to most academics, of an Israelite ethnic marker. And according to Finkelstein, this is the time period in which we actually begin to see the first Israelites.
Say when the Israelites do go over to Canaan, they bring that with them. Because one of the things we have to understand is that the Canaanites that inhabit Canaan, prior to the Israelites, they ate pig. They ate pig all over the place. That's sort of how we can tell, say, Canaanite settlements from Israelite settlements, is that the Canaanite settlements, they ate pig, but the Israelite settlements didn't. So this always begs the question of, well, where do the Israelites get this from?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That was exactly what we thought it was going to be. Cherry picking data. He covered 900 years from the 19th century to the 1000 BCE. 900 years he cherry picked his sources and cherry picked his information. Notice he never told you or concluded what the scholarship concluded. Cherry picking at its finest. Cherry picking at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just switch my screen. Oh yeah, this is how we do this. When I start speaking, start my time. Just now, I think I had a couple more, about 30 more seconds, because I monitor my time as well. The archaeology of absence. Why the Exodus has no evidence. Let's go. For over a century, archaeologists have combed the region of Egypt, Sinai, and Canaan, looking for any signs of the Exodus, a mass departure of hundreds of thousands of people, an event so monumental it should have left a massive footprint. Yet the ground remains silent. Not a single inscription or monument of Egypt mentions Israel's presence or departure. The silence of Egyptian records is complete and striking. William Popper. The Exodus and the Bible Narrative in the Light of Archaeology and Egyptian Sources. University of California Press, 1948, page 27. Tel El Dabab Avaris, the Egyptian Delta, excavated by Manfred Bietek, Austrian Archaeological Institute, 1966 till present. Avaris has long been identified by biblical literalists as the possible Goshen, where the Israelites were enslaved. What was actually found, however, was a Canaanite mercantile settlement, not a community of oppressed laborers. The material culture, the pottery style, burial custom, and domestic architecture showed that these people lived peacefully and prosperously among the Egyptians. Bietek stated that there is no archaeological evidence for a mass Semitic enslavement or an exodus from this site. Cherry picking sources. The Amarna letters. What do they say? The Amarna letters, 14th century BCE, contain diplomatic exchanges between Egyptian pharaohs and their Canaanite vassal kings. These texts offer a window into the politics of Canaan during the supposed Exodus period. So he was all over the place chronology. They describe local unrest, local conflict, and city-state rivalries. But they are completely silent about a mass Israelite escape from Egypt or the plagues that supposedly devastated the land. This is Donald B. Redford. As he notes, the Amarna archive renders unattainable the claim of a late Bronze Age exodus or conquest of the biblical, as the biblical depicts. Archaeological summary. This is new scholarship here at Laches. Dates securely to the reign of Thutmose III and Amenhotep II, 15th century. Excavations reveal a flourishing Egyptian Canaanite administrative center, not a city destroyed by invaders. The biblical claim of a flight from Egypt to Canaan contradicts the archaeological reality. Egypt was already ruling Canaan. No 13th century destruction layer at Latesh corresponds with a Joshua-style invasion. Supports the consensus from David Finkelstein and the rest. Early Israelites emerged locally within Canaanite culture, not through a mass migration. No migration, no exodus. Jericho, the new excavations. Oh, you thought I wasn't going to go there? Why would you think that? Jericho has been the cornerstone of apologist arguments for decades. The cities whose walls fell flat. He never talked about that. Kenyon excavated 1952 to 1958 found that Jericho was abandoned during the late Bronze Age, meaning there were no walls to fall when Jericho supposedly arrived. Recently, Rogelio Valencia 2023 to 2025 excavation at Jericho confirmed Kenyon's finding. You flim flammer. The destruction layer predates the biblical timeline by several centuries. That's why you're all over with your timeline. No evidence of mass warfare or external invasion was found. Valencia preliminary report concludes that no material evidence supports the biblical destruction or the existence of an Israelite incursion. These findings eliminate Jericho as evidence for the biblical exodus or conquest of Canaan. Hazor, the great northern city. Let's do the archaeology, my friend. Hazor was excavated by Yardin in 1950 and later by Bentor in the 1990s onward. Hazor was indeed destroyed around 1250 to 1230 BCE, but no archaeological evidence indicates that Israelites were responsible. The destruction aligns with the general late Bronze Age collapse, a period of widespread turmoil affecting the entire region. Bentor himself admits that the destruction could have been by any of several regional powers or internal revolt, not necessarily Hebrews. As Finkelstein and Silberman point out, in the Bible on Earth, the attempt to identify every burnt layer as evidence of Joshua's conquest is a textbook example of confirmation bias. Everything that you were doing, Kadesh Barnea, the wilderness, that wasn't. Let's go. Look at it. Traditionally believed to be a major encampment site for the Israelites during their 40-year wandering, Kadesh Barnea was excavated by Rudolph Cohen in 1970 and 1980. Cohen finding revealed no late Bronze Age occupation there whatsoever. The few remains found The few remains found date to the Iron Age, centuries after the supposed biblical Exodus. Come on, stop it. No path out. You're talking about a path out? Come on. Hofmeyr, the Exodus, recent archaeological and geological works in North Sinai, reviewed extensive surveys across the eastern delta and northern Sinai areas the Exodus narratives claimed were traversed. Excavation at Tel Bor and Tel Hebu 1 and 2 and Tel Makshuta uncovered Egyptian military fortress, supply depots, and watchtower, part of the Ways of Horus defense network. These sites show continuous Egyptian occupation and strict out of control throughout the late Bronze Age. Come on, Hofmeyr dates reveal no evidence of mass movement, encampment, or refugee population leaving Egypt. Remember, biblical story here we're looking for here. If a migration of hundreds of thousands occurred, they would have left archaeological and textual traces in these heavily fortified corridors. Yet the record is silent. Even Hofmeyr, who is often sympathetic to the biblical narrative, conclude no physical evidence from North Sinai does not support a historical exodus. Nope. Archaeological silence. Let's continue. What the dig sites should speak but don't. Let's go. The conclusion: from Egypt to Canaan, the physical records show ordinary trade, regional conflict, and cultural continuity, not divine intervention, not an exodus. William G. David concludes no archaeological data can be brought forward to support the historical veracity of the Exodus narrative. You need to stop. Archaeological surveys in Canaan, particularly those conducted by Finkelstein of the Israeli University and College, revealed that the emergence of the early Israelite culture occurred gradually, internally, and locally, not through a sudden invasions. Hundreds of small agrarian villages appear in the central highlands around 1200 BC. The pottery, architecture, and diet show continuity with early Canaanite cultures, meaning these Israelites were Canaanites who evolved new identities, not foreign conquest, as Finkelstein states in the Bible and not. The early Israelites were themselves indigenous Canaanites. There is no evidence of an external exodus or conquest. Let's continue. Courtney, again, beside, is trying to claim these settlements are new arrivals, but the material culture, pottery style, storage yards, and animal bones say otherwise. When the evidence contradicts their narrative, they resort to psychobabbling, calling cultural evolution migration. In reality, the archaeological map of Canaan tells a story of gradual transformation, not divine invasion. No archaeological trace for the evidence of this event. Finally, consider the scale of the Exodus. And mind you, they had to stay 40 years, so that means they all had to die. At least 2 million people wandering had to be buried. Wandering 40 years through the desert, that was an entire civilization move. We should find graves, pottery shards, hearts, tools, refuse, yet there is nothing. Extensive survey across the Sinai, including Rudolph Cohen and Finkelstein survey, has found no remains that support a migration. James Hofmeyr, you have referred to him, ironically, a conservative Egyptologist, admit in Israel, in Egypt, 1996, the archaeological data is insufficient to confirm wilderness accounts. In plain language, even the more sympathetic scholars admit there is simply no evidence. There is none. Apologists will call that argument for silence, which he did, but silence becomes evidence when the scale of the claim demands a trace. 2 million people don't vanish, Courtney, without a footprint, unless, of course, they exist only on parchment. Let's continue. History of ancient Egypt. Let's read the conclusion. Christian Frevels, research makes it clear. Moses is a late literary creation. The Exodus story lacks Egyptian evidence, and the only place this event ever existed in as history is inside the Bible itself. No Egyptian sources mention Moses. The name Moses derived from the Egyptian to give birth, used only in later folk etymology from Hebrews, right? Lack of a contemporary sources. Egyptian records from the 19th to the 21st dynasty, 1292 BC to 946 BC, are completely silent about any Hebrew slave mass migration or national catastrophe. Let's listen to some of the experts themselves. I'm going to go ahead and speak.
If you are talking about a biblical literalist exodus, if you are, just in a pure plain sense of the text, then the answer is no. The idea that hundreds of thousands, millions of people could have left Egypt in one event, basically in a single night, and then spent the next 40 years traveling together as an organized group, eventually invading Canaan, again, all at one sort of single historical moment, is not supported by the evidence, nor is the idea, and this is even more important, I think, to get out right up front, that there was a people resident in Egypt who would have thought of themselves as a unified people, called themselves Israelites even, right? Because by the time the Israelites are in Egypt in the Bible, they are Israelites, right? Their patriarch is called Israel. There's no evidence for that either.
Let's continue.
There is simply no such evidence at the supposed time of the Exodus in the 13th century BCE.
So what does this mean?
The conclusion that the Exodus did not happen at the time and in the manner described in the Bible seems irrefutable when we examine the evidence at specific sites where the children of Israel were said to have camped for extended periods during their wandering in the desert, and where some archaeological indication, if present, would almost certainly be found.
The Exodus, the way the Bible describes it, and the time that the Bible places it, did not happen and seems irrefutable, but it's only irrefutable to people who critically examine the evidence. A person who is just a believer, they don't value the evidence. So it doesn't matter what the evidence says because they're just going to believe it regardless, right? And that's their right to do so. But we all have to know and be clear that these are two completely different approaches to knowledge.
And that is what we saw here on display. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. My opponent is trying to flim-flam his way through this debate. First, by trying to downplay what the actual debate is about. It's archaeological evidence for the biblical narrative of the Exodus. That's number one. Number two, he is mashing timelines from the 19th century to 1000 BCE. He is not referring to any conclusions of the scholars. He's making his own hypothesis, and what he's doing is complete flim-flam. He's cherry picking the data. I'm going to prove to you that in my second round, how that actual source he's using does not agree with his conclusion. And as you saw in that last video, exactly what my brother is doing. He's looking at this information with particular lens, and he's not engaging in a true academic debate. What he's doing is called flim-flamming at the highest degree. Everything he did just now was a cherry pick, was a conjecture, was a flim-flam. He's frauding you with the information that he's bringing forth. Look at his timelines. Go back and look at his slides. He's talking from the 19th century, Moses, and then all of a sudden he's talking about there's evidence in 1000 BCE, forgetting that there are two distinct timelines referred to for the Exodus, the 18th century, the late date, and the early date, which is 13th century. But we get into that in my second round. What you're clearly seeing is why I'm on my no flim-flam campaign, because of the information what my brother just attempted to do. He first tried to undermine the scholarship, undermine archaeology by doing what apologists do, try to poke holes in the data that they have, and then subsequently try to use the data that do exist, cherry pick, to make his point. Ladies and gentlemen, I came here tonight to expose the flim-flam, and that's what you just saw. With that, I yield the floor. I'll see you in the second round. Bloodbath.
All right. That was the end of the first round. We're gonna remove him. Oops, at this stage. We're gonna, for some odd reason, here we go. That should fix it. All right, Courtney, are you ready for the second round?
Yes. I get an opportunity to make a pause, right?
That's during the question and answer round.
Oh, no problem. But okay, no problem. That's cool. That's cool. I will need to switch from a couple of things, like from one thing to another thing. That's it.
Oh, that's fine. If it's a technical thing, then yeah. Just let me know when you need me to.
No problem.
What you need me to do.
Can you please share my screen now?
All right, I'm restarting the time. I will start when you start. Let me full screen view. I'll start when you start. 15 minutes on the clock. Round 2.
Thank you very much. All right, guys. Number 1, my opponent said I'm talking about the 19th century. If you guys see that, what's in red, 1265 BCE. And apparently my opponent just lied about what Finkelstein says. Let's go all the way down, almost to the end of my presentation, because he just lied on Finkelstein. Isn't that amazing? All right, let me just make this full screen. Unbelievable. I can't believe this guy just lied on Finkelstein. Now, what did he lie about Finkelstein on? Well, Finkelstein actually says that the origin of the Israelites in archaeological history appears within a time gap of a few generations, not a very long period. Misquoting and misunderstanding what you just quote mined in order to argue against me demonstrates your lack of ability to actually deal with the data at hand, even from one of your primary sources. All right. Like I said, I didn't get to finish my slideshow. The implication of my slideshow was this: the argument of propinquity. Because according to the Bible, they lead in the late 13th century BCE. And according to the Bible, they enter into the land of Canaan in the late 13th century BCE. What is the current consensus as regards the dates of the archaeology? The current consensus is primarily that the archaeological evidence from the excavated Palestinian sites has been used to bolster the current scholarly consensus that there was an Israelite exodus from Egypt, and it must have occurred sometime in the 13th century, or in other words, sometime during the 19th dynasty. My opponent is completely lost on the archaeological data or even knowing what the scholarship says. And the current scholarly opinion is not just my opinion. I take it because of the archaeological data. I'm willing to go with the data. My opponent just tried to argue views that I do not hold as it relates to just straw man me the whole time. And I have a whole debate about this. So academically, he didn't do his research. Now, can you please pause my time real quick so I can switch slides?
All right. Time pause.
All right. Thank you. Give me 1 second. Let me get this off. And let me go to sharing another screen. All right, can you see my screen?
I am adding it to the stage. It is up now.
Thank you very much.
I start when you start.
Thank you. All right, so now I'm actually going to rebuttal the primary aspect of his debate thesis that the absence of evidence is evidence of absence. Now, I think this is a horrible argument. That's why I'm arguing on the basis of data, not on the basis of non-data. He's using the argument from negative proof tonight, guys. And the misuse of this happens when opponents rely on an argument from silence that is archaeologically unsound. The absence of evidence is only meaningful if evidence should exist but is unrecoverable. The Sinai has not been excavated thoroughly. It's only been 5 trucks that went through it and did a field survey. That's not an excavation. That's not even near a full site excavation in the Sinai. Why direct evidence for the Exodus is unrealistic? Well, number one, Egyptian scribal norms. They omit defeats. They would never talk about a plague, especially if it's attributed to one of their in-house residents and their slaves. They don't record slave revolts or events shaming the pharaoh. Nomadic and semi-nomadic groups leave very minimum archaeological traces. Kadesh Barnea, guys, that place was where the Israelites were, but that was not an initial settlement of the Israelites. That was where they were camping at. Notice the difference. Settlements compared to camps. The Sinai is also one of the worst regions for long-term material preservation due to the current state of it. Due to the current state of it being extremely sandy. Excavational limits in the Delta, Nile Delta. Only a fraction of the Eastern Delta has been excavated. According to Kitchens, about 5% of Egypt has been excavated, and that's primarily at the largest sites around. Again, we have much more excavations actively going on in Israel than anywhere else in the world. So that's something to consider, guys. P. Ramses and Avaris, they lie also on a floodplain. That's where the river used to be, the Nile River, the Nile Pelusiac branch. It flooded once a year over there to begin with. Avaris would flood regularly once a year. Isn't that interesting? Again, no administrative records from Avaris have been found. And I'm glad that my opponent mentioned the Amarna letters, because the Amarna letters are our largest collection of administrative records throughout the entirety of ancient Egypt. That's only a span of about 10 years. And they're not even Egyptian documents. Those are letters received by the Egyptians requesting help in Canaan for these Haribu, primarily the Amorites, fighting and beating up people throughout Canaan. So that's interesting. My opponent does not have any familiarity with the archaeological issues or the data itself. There's an Egyptian silence that should be expected. Egyptian ideology avoided documenting or embarrassing events. This is something we need to take in consideration. Textual silence is consistent with Egyptian practice, not evidence against the Exodus. Indirect evidence weakness of the opposing argument. A substantial amount of people, according to Betox excavation, during the 19th dynasty, it was about 50,000 people that left. About 50,000 people that left the site of Avaris during the reign of Ramses II. Isn't that interesting? But the material culture reflects a long time of Levantine population at the site because the Hyksos were there. We do not see a continuation of the Hyksos or Minoan culture at the site because the Israelites, not the Israelites, the Egyptians came around and plundered it during the reign of Kamose. They plundered all of the wealth and riches at the site and made it very, very depleted technically. My opponent, again, is uninformed regarding the archaeological data. Regional migrational patterns. I've already shown that there are some, because in Egypt we find from the middle period, the Middle Bronze Age, way before the time period in question, from the Middle Bronze Age onwards, there was a common theme, especially in the Nile Delta, for no pig. It takes time for people to stop eating their cultural foods. So I want y'all to think, do y'all eat yams? If you're black, do y'all eat yams? That's a cultural food for us from Africa. We haven't stopped eating it yet. And yet my opponent's saying, oh no, these native residents in Canaan that usually would have consumed a large amount, copious amounts of swine, just randomly stopped in a matter of a few generations? Interesting. And according to Finkelstein, guys, remember, Finkelstein said in that book with Silberman that this was sudden and new urban populations, and that's where we can find the first Israelites in archaeological record. Now, this is the conclusion of that issue. He's basically using the absence of evidence or the negative proof argument, which doesn't prove anything. It is a logical fallacy. And the fact is, some of this information that he's not telling you is very consistent for why we shouldn't find any evidence. Rebutting the lack of archaeological evidence for the millions. Number one, I don't think my opponent has actually read the text Deuteronomy 7:7. Deuteronomy 7:7 says that the Israelites were not plentiful. The Lord loved them, but not because of them being of great size. They were actually one of the smallest communities in Canaan. Amazing. And by the way, the biblical text actually does not indicate millions of people left. We have to translate the text. And my opponent needs to give a demonstration for whatever mode of translation, because it seems like he's just going to uncritically accept whatever translation renders. While I deal with the actual original language text, my opponent just uncritically accepts whatever any English translation renders. Is that academic? No, because the term aleph could mean thousand, or it may mean clan, troop, or unit, because that's how it's usually used in the ancient Near East throughout Semitic culture. So keep that in mind, guys. Again, Deuteronomy 7:7. The Lord did not set his love on you or choose you because you were more numerous than other people, for you were the fewest of all peoples. Isn't that interesting, guys? The text does not really seem to suggest, at least in its earlier literary phases, if you want to use a source critical method, we can, because Richard Friedman says the priestly source is not the deuteronomistic source, and the deuteronomistic source comes after J and E, and the J and E come after both Judges 4 or Judges 5, where you have the Song of Deborah and the Song of Miriam or the Song of Moses, which I already talked about today. So those two songs are the oldest texts in the Old Testament, according to Richard Elliott Friedman. And then you have J.E. J.E. are there also. And then you have the priestly source. Now, Deuteronomy might be considered a priestly source, but is it being consistent? I think it is, because we may be misrendering the ancient words. So again, Israel was small in the Torah, not massive. This contradicts the million-person migrational idea, and the view this verse pertains to a group that emerged from Egypt, not a later population. Now, the biblical text doesn't necessarily indicate millions. Let's keep on going. Archaeology cannot establish or refute specific populational sizes in nomadic groups, because nomadic groups do not leave a whole lot of archaeological evidence remainings. Short-term encampments, like what we found at Kadesh Barnea, according to the text, will likely not survive for a millennium, especially if they're on a floodplain or a location where it floods a lot, archaeologically speaking. Guys, now, no ancient Near Eastern migration of similar or smaller sizes is archaeologically visible. And yet, we know, quote unquote, that during earlier periods of Egyptian reign, they allegedly went to the Shashu people and brought back 100,000 of them. I think this is during the reign of Amos, or slightly after, maybe Tutankhamun Tutmosis III. So I think he says he brings 100,000 of them through the Sinai from Canaan. Do we have any archaeological evidence of this directly? Are we going to use consistent methodologies when assessing our ancient Near Eastern literature, guys? I know who's not, probably because he's a dogmatic skeptic. Oops. Now, again, can we expect archaeological evidence and for millions of people that are methodologically flawed? I don't know. I don't think so. Archaeology rarely preserves these type of populations. Again, Egypt's northwestern frontier is one of the least excavated ancient Near Eastern regions. We do not know where Migdal was. We only know where Tel El Borg was and Tel El Hebwa. I'm so glad my opponent mentioned that, because I've actually read the excavational reports. My opponent hasn't. And those locations were first established way before the time I'm talking about. And by the way, they're in Egypt. They're not in Sinai. And if you read the actual excavation reports, they're not in the Sinai. They're in Egypt, according to the ancient Egyptian geographic situation. My opponent is completely ignorant, because I've read these reports. Now, the Egyptian silence does not disprove an exodus of any size. Egyptian inscriptions were ideologically selective. No pharaoh recorded his defeats again. The slave revolts were embarrassments. Textual silence is expected, not surprising. Egypt rarely recorded ethnic labor groups in these Egyptian sites. What Egyptians normally did was just call them Levantines or Semites. We don't find literature, papyri records, or archaeological record of the actual slaves in Egypt identified by means of their tribal identity. We just find name lists, like in the Brooklyn Papyri. That's an Egyptian document going way back, but it's just a pretty extensive one that shows a lot of Emoric names, a lot of Semitic names, as it relates to the slaves that were doing corvée labor for the pharaoh. Not during the time I'm talking about, but well before. And again, we have evidence from the time of Ramses II of his 50th regnal year of actual accounting, not of the slaves, but of the brick production, which is what the Israelites said that they were doing at both Pithom and Ramses. We know those archaeological sites that existed, and it was soon after by which they exited from them. Isn't this interesting, guys? Now, Archaeological and textual evidence supports a significant Semitic presence in Egypt. We already know this. My opponent even just mentioned this. Thank you very much. And by the way, guys, we found 4-room houses in Egypt. Those same ethnic markers for Israelites, according to Shlomo and Abram Frost, we find them in Egypt during the time of Hornhap.
30 seconds.
Thank you. We find them at Avaris during the late 19th dynasty. My opponent is not familiar with some of these interesting proto-Israelite or early Israelite ethnic markers. Unbelievable. Conclusion, guys, the Exodus narrative does not require millions of people. Deuteronomy affirms a small amount of people. Ancient Near Eastern archaeology cannot direct nomadic traces because they were likely twin dwellers, as the biblical text says, and they were not settlers. Thank you.
Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, the flim flam was in full effect. All right, let me share my screen here. They haven't found the evidence yet, but they're going to find the evidence soon, but they haven't found the evidence yet. The Bible says a small community in Canaan, so no Exodus. You're trying to undermine the source, then there's no archaeology, but the archaeology prove it. There's archaeology, but there's no archaeology. All over the place. He can't give you a date. Ladies and gentlemen, when I start speaking, start my time.
This fight's finished. I gotta call it. That shit, you can't do no more out there. You can't fight. It's killing you. You gotta stop this thing.
All right, the Exodus, Semitic literature. Let's look at what the scholars do actually say, because he didn't bring you none of what the scholars say. Modern biblical scholarship overwhelmingly treat the Exodus as mythic or legendary narrative, not a historical documentation. The story functions as a national origins myth for Israel, explaining their identity. Israel Finkelstein and Simmelman, the Exodus is a cultural memory rather than a literal historical event. William Daver notes that the stories of the Exodus, Sinai wandering, and conquest are post facto constructs reflecting later ideological needs. We'll get to those. Richard Friedman, he says the Exodus narrative incorporates multiple literary traditions and authors over centuries. These traditions, extraneous to the book of the Exodus, are the Asiatic folk memories, adjusted, distorted, inverted with motivation, reversed, or inputted of the Hyksos occupation and their expulsion after the reign of 108 years. But the Egyptians didn't have records or didn't keep names of foreign groups. Courtney may argue, even if literary, it could still be historical. That's what you were trying to do. This is evocation, mixing metaphorical truth with empirical truth. You cannot do that, Courtney. A story can convey moral or theological meaning without being evidence of a historical event. Let's look at what Dr. Baden says. The book of the Exodus, a biography written in 2019. Exodus is a text shaped over centuries, composed and edited by multiple authors. The narrative historical events is minimal. Archaeological support for the literal Exodus is far from non-existent. The story's significance lies in cultural and religious influence, not a literal historical fact, Courtney. As Dr. Joe Biden emphasizes, the Exodus narrative was composed and edited over centuries, and there is no solid archaeological evidence for a literal Exodus. The importance lies in its enduring cultural and religious influence, not historical fact. As you claim, there's no historical evidence, right? There's no archaeological evidence, right? We agree, Courtney, so you lost the debate. Chronological and archaeological mismatch. He's staying away from giving you dates because he can't. Even if one tries to impose a literal timeline, archaeology does not match the biblical chronology. There are two main proposed dates of the Exodus. First, the early date, 15th century BCE, the 18th dynasty. So what are you talking about, 19th dynasty? The late date, the 13th century, and you were all over the place, the Ramses II era. Look at the time frame between the two, ladies and gentlemen. Neither align with the archaeological record. Early date conflict with Egyptian and Canaanite settlement patterns, Finkelstein and Zimmerman. Right? Late date fails to match the destruction layers of Jericho, Hazor, and Lachish by Kenyon, Yardine, and Bentor. Right? Apologists often switch between these two dates or claim a small group left, not millions, which is moving the goalposts. The Bible explicitly describes a mass exodus. So reducing it to a small migration avoids the empirical challenge, Courtney, rather than addressing it. You lost this debate by your own words. Let's look at Dr. Garbanea, the late birth of Moses and the Exodus tradition. Biblical claim, 1250 BCE, Moses leads the Israelites out of Egypt under Pharaoh Ramses II. That's a traditional dating. Archaeological record, 1250 to 1000 BCE, no Egyptian, Canaanite, or Sinai evidence of Israel or mass migration. Textual composition, Barnea pushes it even further back to 450 to 350 BC, the Persian period. Jewish scribes developed the Moses Exodus story as a national theological myth. This is what the scholars are actually saying, Courtney. Cultural context, Achaemenid Empire, Yahwehism reshaped under the Persian imperial ideology and Zoroastrian influence, liberation, divine law, and moral order. This is where it comes from. Let's look at what he says. The Exodus story is not Bronze Age reportage. It is a Persian period theological construct, a retroactive myth, a myth of divine liberation crafted nearly 9 centuries after the time it's claimed to describe. The formative phase of Yahwehism as a monotheistic religion did not begin in the Bronze Age, Courtney, but under Achaemenid rule, when Judean communities redefined their identity in interaction with imperial and Iranian religious concepts. The Moses figure functioned as a pragmatic lawgiver of the Persian age, retrojected into a mythic past to legitimize contemporary religious reforms. So when Courtney talks about Moses under Pharaoh II, he's arguing in the wrong millennia. According to Dr. Gad, Barnea research, Moses' story was written hundreds of years later, reflecting ideology, not history, Courtney. Stop it. Pharaoh problem, your source that you had up there don't agree with you. Garrity in Israel Exodus, the transdisciplinary perspective, the book he just had up. It must be said that neither Seti the first nor Ramses II worked well for the Pharaoh of the oppression, nor do Ramses II or Meneptah work that well for the Pharaoh of the Exodus. This is literally out of that book, Courtney, the 13th century Exodus theory. The Ramses Exodus is the most popular in apologetic circles, yet Garrity himself rejects its internal consistency. The biblical narrative demands 2 pharaohs, one dying during Moses' exile and another during the Exodus itself. But in the 13th century timeline, Seti the first, 1279 BCE, and Ramses II, 1279 to 1213 BCE, overlap chronologically with no plausible sequence fitting the biblical story. Meneptah, even worse. His stele, 1208 BCE, already lists Israel as a settled group in Canaan. That small group the Exodus was mentioned about in Canaan. Israel existed before the supposed Exodus. Thus, the very source he's citing makes it clear that no Pharaoh Egyptian history fits the biblical narrative. Now, he stayed away from these miracles central to the Exodus plagues. Manna and the Red Sea parting have no natural or archaeological trace. Even if one assumes symbolic truth, they cannot serve as historical evidence. So no archaeological evidence, Courtney. We agree. Hoffmeyer, while discussing possible historical kernels, once you get the kernel, the story no longer is relevant. The biblical story falls apart. He states that miraculous events cannot be corroborated archaeologically, Courtney. Redford emphasizes the absence of Egyptian-centered corroboration of miracles. Apologists often invoke miracles as a fallback. God hid the evidence, right, Courtney? This is circular reasoning. Claiming the Bible is true because God is said to have intervened. It removes the narrative from empirical inquiry, making it inherently unfalsifiable. Now, let's look at these settlements. The Israelites emerged as in the central highland, not as invaders, Courtney, but as Canaanites descended with new identity markers, including religion and tribal organization. Yes, Courtney, they didn't eat pork anymore. Silverman, archaeology shows gradual settlements of Slav villages, not a military conquest, Courtney. Yes, internally, we agree, and continuity with material culture, Courtney. Daver in 2003, pottery and archaeology and architecture indicate evolution of local Canaanite population rather than the arrival from Egyptian. If this is a scholarly debate, why are you not quoting the scholars instead of cherry picking destruction layers is isolated events to claim they are proof of conflict? This is confirmation bias, selective interpretation of evidence to fit a narrative rather than letting the data speak. You're doing it all, Courtney. Let's look at what this book actually served. The Exodus story is a compilation of oral tradition, mythical motif, and ideological construct, incorporating older Egyptian motif, for example, expulsion from Egypt, plagues, serves as a unifier, Israelite identity, and religious ideology, likely composed centuries after the event, as we just discovered, right? The scholars actually saying, scholarly support, look, Friedman identified multiple sources exactly the Pentateuch, Yahweh, Elohim, Beasley, and the Deuteronomies. It can't be one story if it's written over centuries, Courtney. David note ideology, motives in shaping the Exodus narrative to explain settlement patterns and the covenant. Apologists again often claim historical core exists beneath the myth. This is unsupported speculation. You're doing it all. A hypothesis without empirical evidence. A scholarly consensus. The scholarly consensus treats the narrative as legendary, not historical, based on material and textual analysis. Let's continue. This is too easy. Come on. The Exodus story is part of a wider ancient Near Eastern literary context. Story of mass exodus, mass departure, plagues, and divine deliverance are common in Mesopotamian and Egyptian contexts. The narrative serves to explain and legitimize national identity and social cohesion. Rather than record factual events, Finkelstein Exodus conquest story reflects mythical frameworks common across the region. Kitchens note literary stylization and ideological purpose. Apologists again claim comparative mythology. No, Courtney, you're misrepresenting this comparative scholarship. Don't do that. Now let's look here. Rensburg, again from your book, note these motifs exist only in Egyptian mythology, not elsewhere in the ancient Near East. Scholars like Susan Towers-Hollis, Scott Nogel, and Gary Rensburg have demonstrated that the Exodus story is heavily inspired by Egyptian literature and myth. The so-called miracles, the staff to serpent, water to blood, and the drowning of Pharaoh's army are all motifs found in Egyptian myth, not historical memory. Almost all of these motifs appear nowhere else in the Near East, which means the Exodus author wasn't recording history. He was adapting Egyptian myth to construct a theological drama. So when Courtney claims archaeological evidence for these events, they're trying to prove a historicity of a borrowed mythology, a logical absurdity. Now, your own book, Courtney, let's read what it says. The Springer volume, Israel Exodus in Transdisciplinary Perspective, is not an argument for the historical Exodus. It's a collection of multidisciplinary essays examining cultural memory, archaeology, textual tradition, and the geological possibilities surrounding the Exodus motif. This is what the editors say. The biblical Exodus is not confirmed by archaeology or the Egyptian record. The book purpose is exploration, not validation. Look, as the editors write in their conclusion, readers will have to judge for themselves the merit of the arguments and the evidence, considered by most scholars to be non-historical fantasy at worst and circumstantial at best. What are you doing? This is intellectual cherry picking. Let's continue. Let's continue. In this book, Beto notes the Exodus story was rewritten through redaction by priests in order to elevate the Exodus event to mythical status in the exile or post-exilic time. As noted by Dr. Barry Beto, the Exodus was redacted to mythologized by priests during or after the Babylonian exile. It wasn't an historical record. It was a national origins myth meant to unite a displaced people. Come on, Courtney, stop. Let's wrap it up. So as we close the second round, let's take a step back and look at the full picture. What's going on here? Throughout this presentation, we have examined archaeological, textual analysis, and historical context, from the Egyptian Delta to Tel Adab to the highlands of Canaan, from Jericho to Hazor, from Kadesh Barnea to the Armenian letters. No evidence support the biblical exodus, and that's what we're debating here tonight. The settlement, deconstruction layers, and artifacts all tell a story of ordinary human activity, trade, migration, conflict, not of a miraculous mass departure, plagues, or divine intervention. Modern scholarship is unanimous. Finkelstein and Asher note the Exodus is a cultural memory, not historical fact. David, post facto ideological construct. Even Egyptologists like Kenneth Kitchen and Redford acknowledge the absence of the Egyptian records supporting the biblical story. James Hoffmeyer, he wrote at the conservative voice, admit the biblical miracles and wandering leave no material trace. So what are we doing here? In short, there's no archaeological, textual, or historical evidence for a literal exodus, period. Now consider why we are having this debate. It is not because there's genuine evidence in favor of the exodus. There isn't. This debate exists because of apologetic rhetoric, because some insist of shoehorning myth into history, using logical slides, cherry-picking dates, chronological distortions, and appeals to miracles as evidence. They are attempting to convince us that fiction is fact, and that's why we are taking time to dismantle these claims methodologically. False. False, ladies and gentlemen. So, come on, please.
Innovative, versatile, unexpected. The 2025 Ford Ever truck with a flip.
What's the treasure? Somebody said, what's up? What's started out as a joke? It's turned out to be a fact. It appears to be a very serious condition.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, everything I said he would do, he actually did. Cherry picking the data, chronological distortion. He was all over the place, making assumption, not sticking, and actually giving you any corroboration from actual scholars. He didn't give you one conclusion. It was a bunch of flim-flam. Like I told you, we're here to dispel the flim-flam. 1 minute, they haven't found the evidence yet. The next minute, they were rich. They were so rich in avarice because they were, as I indicated, a trade, a post. These people were living prosperously among the Egyptians. For 1 minute, they are not identified. The next minute,
said
easy work.
It's going to be back on you. 10 minutes for the Q&A. It starts with
yes,
you.
Sir.
Do you need a few seconds to prepare your questions?
No.
Okay.
Let's go.
Real
Good
quick.
evening. How you doing?
Well, what's up, Sid? Real quick, before y'all get into the Q&A, and Cedrick, I apologize if I cut your momentum. I want to remind everybody what it is we doing here. Just a quick 60 minutes is all I need. Bear with me.
60 seconds.
There you go, 60 seconds, my bad.
This isn't your average debate. This is Prime, the flagship battleground of Conversus Series Debate League. Every legend started on a stage where words cut deeper than swords. Every 2 weeks, intellect meets intensity. Logic meets legends, and only one question remains. What's a titan to a legend? The Versus Series, Prime, where legends are made.
you not
Are you not entertained? This is Versus Series Prime, our bi-weekly Versus Series show dedicated to bringing y'all the best debates we can, the best presentation we can, the best interviews, and the best intros to the channel that we can as we lead up to these premium live events, starting with next month's Final Word. We'll turn it back over to the brothers for the chin check session.
You already know we are back. If you are watching, please hit that thumbs up button, like and subscribe to the channel. Please, I am going to set the time for 10 minutes. This is that chin check session. And for those who don't know, this is the Q&A where they really get the face off. I am going to prepare it for Ced to go first because the archaeologists opened up with the beginning. So now we're switching the battlefield up. And Ced, it's on you. I'll start when you start with your first question.
Good evening. Courtney, how you doing?
I'm good.
How you doing? You said you had evidence for Moses. That's why we have the Nobel Peace Prize organization in the back. But you unfortunately weren't able to provide us with any evidence for Moses. So are you conceding that there is no evidence for a historical figure called Moses?
Yes, you're referring to a comment that was made to you that intentionally was facetious, and I made that comment to you facetiously because I knew you would do this right here in this debate.
Okay, so are you conceding the debate because, of course, you acknowledge that there is no ability to prove the with archaeology the biblical narrative, right? So you started off from jump conceding this debate because you were not able to prove nothing about the biblical story. Do you concede the debate?
No. Indirect evidence demonstrates my point.
So your argument from silence, okay. So we have these people wandering in the Sinai. And again, so let me ask my question, okay? It's a simple question. You got 40 years wandering in the Sinai, and by means of the biblical narrative, that generation had to die off. These people needed to be buried. We have evidence of them, of their burial practices where they actually were. However, in the Sinai, on the route, the migration route, which is supposedly from the Bible, we have no evidence whatsoever of any type of burial, any type of hearts, any type of settlement, mind you, for 40 years on the route that is traveled. How do you explain that?
Number one, the Bible does not say that they exit on the route of any known route. They actually avoid any known route at the point of Yom Suf.
Could they have avoided? So within the both time frames, especially the New Kingdom, when the Egyptians were in control of Canaan during the time of the Exodus, how could a migrating group of people leave and enter into Canaan without the Egyptian knowing, while Egyptians were in control of this region and had, as we noted, the way of Horus, fortifications all along this route?
Yeah, well, number one, we know that during the New Kingdom period of the Ramsonite period in particular, we know for a fact it was not tightly watched. How do we know this? The Luca people, some of the sea people, were entering into Canaan on the coastal plains, and they were able to settle there all the way up until the time of Ramses III, by which that's when they made their incursion and ultimately did a lot of damage to Ramses III.
And these people, we have documentation of their migration into the region. We have documentation. So again, you are flip-flopping and contradicting yourself. So no excavation site at Jericho prove any invasion whatsoever, and the evidence indicate there was never an invasion of Canaan from any Israelite or any invading group. So how do you attest for the fact that there is no evidence of any invasion into Jericho?
We actually do have evidence of site destruction at Jericho as it regards to what was found on the.
No, we don't.
Can I finish my answer?
So stop. We just examined the latest. No, stop. My time. Quiet. We just examined the latest evidence from Dr. Valencia, which reconfirmed Dr. Kenyon's work, where there's no destruction layer within the time frame, neither of the time frame of the supposed exodus. And again, all the evidence indicate an indigenous population. No invasion, no exodus. How do you?
Or you're just going to tell me? You're going to tell me about stuff that you're ignorant of. Number one, the individual you're mentioning is not the lead excavator at the site Tel El Sultan currently. That's a commentator. The current excavator and lead excavator's name is Lorenzo Nigro. You're misunderstood as it relates to the current Israeli. Excuse me. You're misunderstood. Number one, as it relates to the current Israeli and Italian excavation going on there since at least the late.
Yes, that's the work I'm referring to. I have the article. I have the excavation work right here. So what I was referring to was the exact work. So again, don't attempt to flim-flam. They're reconfirming the previous work from Kenya. So again, I caught you lying now again. Number two, let's go back. The initial title of the debate and the fact that from the opening you refuse to address the topic of the debate, which is archaeological evidence for the biblical narrative of the Exodus. First of all, that disingenuous move that you did by trying to switch your title around proved your lack of actual scholarship. Number two, why would you not give any conclusions that the scholars reach in their actual? Yes.
I have conclusions as the scholars in academia actually have argued for, such as Avram Frost, Shlomo Bonamovich, David.
What is the academic consensus on the archaeological evidence for the biblical Exodus? What is the academic consensus?
As it relates to the Exodus, the most recent articles directly from Tel El Daba Medford Bitak, he's arguing a Merneptah Exodus.
So Merneptah doesn't help you because when Merneptah invaded Canaan, the Israelites were already established people within Canaan. As your biblical story also said, the Israelites were a small community in Canaan. No exodus because they started internally. So that corroborates what the scholars say. So now again, you're flim-flamming and you're doing cherry picking. You're not dealing with the fact. So you move away from the fact that you have to deal with the biblical narrative. How do you explain the manna?
How do I explain the manna? I don't.
You don't. So you don't have no way to explain a part of the biblical narrative which is integral. How do you explain what evidence do we have for the death of the first
argument? But sadly, we do not have a complete archaeological record of any archeological site that has been.
So now we don't have complete archaeological records. So you're going again
to Sinai has never been excavated, for example.
The absence of evidence. However, with a multitude of people like that for 40 years wandering in the desert, there will be evidence, especially if the generation there cannot go into. So that all those people had to die in the Sinai. There will be evidence, and the lack of evidence speaks volumes. And that is the consensus of the scholars. What do you bring to the table? You claim to be an archaeologist, yet you don't know archaeologists, and the conclusion of the scholars don't agree with you. So what are you doing here? Do you concede the debate?
No. My point in the argument tonight is that indirect evidence demonstrates that ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad that you're paying attention because you have yet to actually address my argument. You may continue with your statements.
He's persistent with the flim-flam and has no ability to address what he actually needed to defend. So he came here by default already conceding to the debate because up to now he hasn't provided you with any archaeological evidence supporting the biblical narrative. And that was the title of the debate, because these dudes sit in the back chat flim-flamming their way through, claiming that they have evidence, like Moses, like he can describe the parting of the Red Sea. And what he does, he shows you 60-mile-an-hour winds for 4 hours and expect 2 million people to pass in that distance in 4 hours. Like, are you taking us for a fool, or are you actually convinced of this nonsense? Who's the fool here?
I'm taking Cedric.
Don't answer that question. Don't answer that question. Don't answer that question.
I'm taking you as a quote miner. So I'm taking the audience as reasonable people that can actually read
and we have no evidence. And what you decide is that because we haven't found it yet, the biblical narrative is true. That makes sense to you, ladies and gentlemen? What you just witnessed is a whole bunch of flim-flam, cherry-picking data, and no actual evidence to support the biblical Exodus. Thank you very much.
All right, we're gonna switch it up.
Let's go with the psychobabble.
All right, so now let me just go ahead and set this back up for 10 minutes. Brother Courtney, when you are ready, I'll start the timer when you start talking.
And you said I get 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Awesome. All right. Cedric, did you say in your opening slides that if I'm able to prove any scientific evidence for the probability of the crossing of the Red Sea, you lose tonight's debate?
No. See, that's a bunch of conjecture. Probability of a possibility is not evidence. So that's not evidence. So, and when we're talking about evidence,
next question is very simple. My next question is very simple. All right.
You have no idea what actual evidence is.
Talking,
okay, good.
Moderator. Okay, thank you. Now, as it relates to no direct evidence, would you say that the absence of no direct evidence demonstrates no historical event ever occurred consistently?
So in this case of the biblical narrative, which is what we have to prove, the biblical narrative is clear. When we look,
can you please answer my direct question?
That would be.
Do you take that standard?
I'm answering your question. So in this instance, we would expect to find clear evidence. So in this case, that argument you're trying to use is fallacious, because the absence of evidence is the absence of an event.
The next question is: do we have direct evidence of Merneptah's conquest?
Yes.
Where? Are you
Googling? Have it on both sides of the equation.
Where?
We have it on both sides of the equation.
Can you name me the archaeological site by which is demonstrated? Where is the
now
direct
you are trying to
evidence for the Battle of Merneptah?
So you don't know what archaeological evidence is. So you're using words like that.
Actually,
we are looking at archaeological evidence as tangible evidence. So we have
time is paused.
On the one side.
Your time is paused.
Thank you. Real briefly, I need to bring something up. All right, can you please share my screen?
You sharing screen in the quick Q&A? That's not
Very briefly. Do you know? You can continue my time. Now, this is a site called Tel El Gezer. Did you know that there's archaeological evidence for Merneptah's campaign here?
Mm-hmm. How does this support the biblical?
When did you learn this?
How does this support the debate title? How does this support the debate title?
We're talking about archaeological evidence. Thank you for demonstrating that.
No, we're talking about archaeological evidence for the Exodus, for the biblical story of the Exodus. Is that the title? So we're talking about the biblical Exodus. Talking about the biblical Exodus. So your non-secular question to demonstrate what archaeology is completely non-secular.
Please pause my time.
Can you move on to the next question, please?
He just wants to railroad me, and it's my time. Next question.
You have one more pause left.
Thank you. You can go ahead and start my time again.
Right.
Cedric, is Israel mentioned in the Merneptah Stele?
Yes, it's mentioned in the Meneptah
Beautiful.
and as I indicated, what the
Do we have any
it doesn't help your case
evidence?
because
My next question, sir.
that is
My next
Israel
question is, do we have
established,
direct
already
archaeological evidence of
established,
the Israelites
already
instructing
established in Canaan, 1200.
I don't think you heard the archaeological question that's
So
relevant.
Israel is already established from
direct
1208 BCE
evidence?
in Canaan.
Do you have
So it
direct
doesn't help your
archaeological evidence?
argument because that it shows no
I'm
exodus.
just trying
So
to ask
again,
you
it
my next
doesn't help.
question.
Hey,
My
Cedrick,
opponent's
you
trying
gotta
to
let
jump
him. You can't talk over him while he's asking the questions.
Thank you. Again, do we have direct evidence from the Meneptah Stela, the earliest non-biblical reference of Israel in Canaan? Do we have evidence from that stela, direct evidence of their destruction, Israelites' destruction, by means of being laid waste and seed being no more? Line 27.
You have evidence of a battle? Yes. Why? Because like you referred to the stele. And how do we know that there was a war fought? Because the stele is confirmed on both sides. So that is also archaeological evidence to support the fact that a battle was had.
Where is the Levantine account of this conquest?
Where's the Levantine account? There's no Levantine account because it wasn't a battle between the Levantine.
Had accounts from both sides, so you just lied. Thank you for demonstrating
both sides.
Of the archaeological
Who was the both parties involved in the war?
Gezer was destroyed. According to that,
how do we have independent cooperation? How do we have independent cooperation? How do we have independent cooperation of this fact? Because we have.
It is not your time.
Okay, good. So you understand that that's actual archaeological evidence when you refer to a stele, right? When you refer to a stele, you're referring to archaeological evidence. Or did you know that? Were you ignorant of that fact? That when you refer to a stele, that you refer to archaeological evidence?
I don't know why you're talking. It's not your time to ask
Didn't
questions.
you know that? This is ridiculous. So you're referring to a stele and asking me for archaeological evidence.
Do you agree with Finkelstein that Israel first appears on the scene in the late Bronze, early Iron Age period with brand new settlements from our shared
within Canaan? Within Canaan. So we see gradual emergence in Canaan because, of course, there is no exodus, there is no invasion. So you see a gradual in 1200 BCE. 1200 BCE in the Highlands, we see the gradual development of the Israelite civilization and gradually moving down, like you explained.
The Israelites.
So we are talking about Finkelstein and the actual evidence.
What does the book of Exodus call the Israelites? What is the book of the Exodus call the Israelites?
What does the book of the Exodus call the Israelites?
Yes, what is that phrase that they use to identify those
people? Who was Joseph's people in Egypt?
Don't know.
Wasn't those the Israelites, the Hebrews?
What do you agree with Abram Frost, according to the book Ethnogenesis of Ancient Israel? Do you agree with him as it relates to the term found in Meneptah Stela being an endonym, meaning it's not a name that that the Egyptians are projecting on these people? This is their native. This is what whatever group he encountered, this is what they identified themselves as.
Can I slow it down for you? Can I slow my answer down for you?
Do you agree with
in 1208, the Meneptah Stele identifies the Israelites in Canaan as an indigenous population, which is not helping your case for these people having migrated out of Egypt.
Do you agree with Abram Frost and Richard L. Friedman that some of the new Judean foothills territories inhabited some community from Egypt?
Well, of course. But these people are migrating back and forth. And what time are you talking about? The New Kingdom? In the New Kingdom, there was always people, the Apamu, the Sexual, these were not specifically Israelites. There were a multitude of people migrating, everyone, all of these people making use of the Delta. So he's not referring to a specific Israelite population. The flip-flap is obvious again. So So he thinks I'm not aware of the material. My brother, you're absolutely wrong. So now you're bait and switch. You're bait and switching. So now the Israelites are not Israelites. No, these are not people known as Israelites. These are migrating people. The Abu, the Hebrew, and the Seshu.
I know I don't have any more pause time, but can you hear me, sir? I've asked you 4 different questions. You haven't attempted to answer any of those 4.
Exactly, because you don't allow
You
me
have
to
one
answer
pause
one.
time. You get a total of 3.
No problem. All right.
I don't understand. You ask me a question. I'm in the middle of answering, and you ask another question. What sense does it make?
What are the most extensive administrative records found in ancient Egypt? What is that collection called?
The most extensive, over a 5,000-year history. What are you talking about? Be specific.
We only have a very brief period of 10 years for the largest collection of administrative records in Egypt. Do you know the name of that literature?
No, we don't. We
The
don't.
Amarna letters.
Are we talking about a specific time?
We're talking about the Amarna
Okay,
letters.
that is a very specific. That is a very specific time frame within the Egyptian history.
How long do the
Now
Amarna
that
letters?
is a new kingdom, and this is all Egyptian vassal states. Egyptian vassal states that are not talking about no group of Israelites or group of horde coming out of Egypt, coming into Canaan. Why? They are Canaanite vassals at this point, and they have correspondence going back and forth. And what they're talking about is the Hebrew, which is causing destruction of in the land. They are not talking about an
Who
invasion.
composed the Amarna letters? Who composed the Amarna letters? Who wrote the Amarna letters? Seems like ChatGTP is about to be your best friend in an academic debate regarding archaeological data.
So now I'm going to.
Who wrote the Amarna letters? Who wrote the Amarna letters?
The different vassals. The different vassal
wrote
states
the Amarna
in
letters?
Canaan. There's not one singular author of the Amarna letters. That's how you're ignorance. It's a collection of letters from their vassals.
You said
So
they were
you
from
think
vassal
you think
states
the
in Canaan?
Amarna letters, a collection of letters
So
over
how
10
are
years,
the Amarna
is
letters
used by one
actually
person?
Egyptian
These are
documents?
different administrative posts
How are the
that are
Amarna
communicating
letters
with Egypt.
Egyptian
Your
documents?
ignorance is on display. So
How
ask
are
me
they
that question
Egyptian
again.
documents? How are they Egyptian documents? You just
When
said the
I
Amarna
write a
letters
letter
were
to
written
you,
by the
when I
vassal
write a
state
letter
in
to
Canaan.
you, Courtney,
How are
when
those
I
vassal
write
state
a letter to you, Courtney,
Egyptian
and it is
documents?
within your possession, in your records, and when we come and look for it and we find the record, the letters
If
in
we have
your
a letter,
possession,
if we
we
have a
know
letter,
that they were
45
written
if
by
you have
someone
access to a
else,
letter,
Courtney.
can
That's
you
how that
is
works,
that
Courtney.
an
Are
American
you
record?
that simple, boy? Are you
If we
asking
have,
me these
if we have a
ridiculous
letter
questions
from,
now? Are you falling
if we
apart?
have a letter from the Queen of England, if you and
So
I
you
have the
think
same letter from
the
the Queen
amount
of
of
England,
letters, a collection of letters over 10 years, were written
yep.
by one person?
I didn't say they were.
Which
I just
person?
know
Who
they're
is it?
not Egyptian documents. They're letters from Canaan to Egypt, and that's the most extensive
Exactly.
collection of time.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow. So how are they Egyptian
Exactly.
records?
But the vassals
Are they Egyptian records
are
because they were
writing.
found in Egypt?
The vassals are writing to the state. And
So are they
then, if
Egyptian
you know
records
that these
because they
are
were found in
vassals
Egypt?
controlled by Egypt, you would
Okay,
know
you
if
really
you
do
have
not
an
know the
invading group of
archaeological
people.
data.
And again,
Uh,
the Amman letters, Northern
Thank you.
necessarily helps you.
Thank you very
That's
much.
time.
Dead man walking.
All right, so
Dead
we
man
are.
walking.
That was the end of our chin check round. We are going to 3-minute closeouts. Are you ready? Say, I think you open.
Courtney
You
goes
do.
first.
You do the Courtney. Didn't Courtney start
Yeah,
off?
Courtney was first. Yeah, he closes out.
All right, so you do
Yeah, he closes
your
out.
3-minute
I'm
close.
out.
All right, I'm setting it for 3 minutes. All right, I start when you start. Do you need to share your screen? You there, Sid? Sid. You there,
Courtney
Sid?
goes first.
I thought he
Courtney
started.
goes first. Yeah, he goes first. He closes out. I close. He's affirmative. He closes out, and then I close out.
I don't think he's familiar.
We end the
with
same way we start. The switch up.
No,
The switch up is only.
It said that
The
said
switch
that you
up
go
is
first.
only in the
Listen to what I'm
Q&A.
saying to you.
The
DMG
switch up-
said that you go first. You go now. It's
No.
on you.
No, it's not on me. Whoa. He's the affirmative. We switch up in the Q&A, and then we go back to him closing and me after. That's how it always been. When I go first, I go.
So the way we've been doing it is the person who go first in the round section, the affirmative, go second in the Q&A. They open first and they close first. I mean, you know, they switch. We switch both when we go to the Q&A period. So you would close out, and then Courtney would close out.
No, Courtney start. He's the affirmative. In the Q&A, I went first. Now we're back to closing. He goes first.
Right, that's what I'm saying. This how we've been doing it out the gate. This how we did it with you and Warchild.
Yeah. So Courtney goes first, and then I close out. We done had the Q&A.
Right. Listen to me. If we just like whatever was done in the first in the round section, we switched that in the second session. This is how we've been doing it for the longest.
In the chin check. In the chin check, right?
In both. We did it in your last debate. We did it exactly like that.
No, go back and look. I'm debating. I know what I'm doing. I'm telling you, you open, you start, you finish first, I close out. In the Q&A, we switch it up. That's the only place we switch it up, and then we go back. He close out, and then I close it. He's the affirmative. He's the affirmative. He's affirmative. He closes out.
I just got confused with the way Cedrick put it, because the way Cedrick initially articulated was the way you sounded like you're saying, DMG. There's only one switch during the cross-examination. That's what I just heard him say.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know where our wires getting crossed, because we literally do it.
All right, let me close out, and then go back, look at me and Zion's debate, and come and tell me.
I will.
All right, good.
Do you need me to add your presentation to the screen?
Yes, sir.
All righty. All right, I'm going to enlarge it. There we go.
All right, final closing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, it's a bit slow. As we come to the closing of this debate, let's step back and consider what we've established. We began with a clear framing. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. The biblical Exodus, as described as a miraculous large-scale event, plagues, the parting of the Red Sea, a mass exodus over 2 million people, and the conquest of Canaan. If any of these were historical, we would expect to see archaeological, textual, and material evidence. But here is what we found. Archaeological sites, excavation at Tel Dabab, the Amana Letters, Jericho Canyon and Valencia, Hazor and Kadesh Barnea all provide no trace of mass migration, conquest, or wandering in the Sinai. These sites tell a story of ordinary human settlement, trade, and regional conflict, not biblical miracles. Settlements pertaining patterns in Canaan, evidence show gradual emergence of Israelite identity among local Canaanites, not a sudden invasion. Pottery, architecture, and village layouts reflect continuity, not conquest. Egyptian history context. The Egyptians were meticulous record keepers. Nowhere do they mention plagues, lost armies or mass exodus. Stability and prosperity characterize the new kingdom. Contradiction, the Exodus narrative. Miracles and the implausible. The plagues, manna, Red Sea parting, and 40 years of desert wandering leave no archaeological trace. Even scholars sympathetic to the biblical tradition admit these events are historically unverifiable. Scholarly consensus. Authors across archaeology, Egyptology, and biblical studies, Finkelstein, Silverman, Daver, Redford, Kitchen, Hoffmeyer, Bader, all conclude the Exodus is legendary, mythic, and ideological, not historical fact. Now consider the elephant in the room. Why are we having this debate at all? It is not because there is credible evidence for the Exodus. It exists because of psychobabbling rhetoric and from people like Courtney, who they deliberately reshape of evidence, cherry-picking digs, moving chronological goalposts, and invoking miracles as unfalsifiable proof. The debate exists because myth has been dressed as history. That's why we call it the No Flim Flam campaign.
Subway series, an all new way to Subway. From irresistible cheesesteaks to our chicken sensations, only at Subway.
There's a lot I can say about this man. I don't know if it matters now. I guess what matters is what he stood for, what he lived for, and what he died for. You always did everything the way you wanted it.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, I yield my floor and my time.
All right. It is now time for Courtney to do his 3-minute closeout.
Now, please get my slides.
All right. I will make them large on the screen to fill the layout up. I start the time when you start talking.
All righty. Thank you very much. Wait. One more second. Just one more second. I want to make sure I keep my own time, too. I'm so sorry. 1 second.
That's fine with me.
All right, guys, pay attention to my initial argument for tonight's debate. Did my opponent address any of my substantial points of disagreement? Last I remember, no. He also did do a lot of quote mining in his last couple of slides. This color. No citations were given. Did you pay attention to that? I know for a fact that he misquoted 2 of those scholars, Kitchens and Hoffmeyer, as it relates to certain things he quoted. But my opponent did not address my initial syllogistic argument. Again, he is misrepresenting the reality that I did address the nature of the text being mythology or fairy tale, some type of figurative imagination. I did address this by mentioning Donald Redford. My opponent neglects to actually address what is put forward in tonight's debate. I'm not even going to play this. Again, let's pay attention to what's on the bottom. The yellow and green book, Israel's Exodus and Transdisciplinary Perspective. There's a consensus for the date in academia, and it's my date. And that data has been supported primarily by means of the late Bronze, early Iron Age period around the 1200s, explosion of new Israelite settlements. And we know how they're Israelite settlements because Finkelstein says the only way to tell where an Israelite is by means of what they ate. And all of those Israelite settlements had less than 1% of pig. All the Canaanite settlements had over 4% pig. All of them. Let's remember this, guys. And in ancient Egypt, we know in the Middle Kingdom, that's when the thing is in Nile Delta, that's when the no pig situation began. Maybe these people, just like us as African Americans, are entrenched in where they came from. They were eating the same or not eating the same thing that they came from, Egypt. And that's how you're primarily able to, according to Finkelstein, one of our shared resources. Now, my opponent wanted to talk about Jericho and such. Sadly, he is not familiar with the data. The oldest archaeological argument regarding Jericho was there probably was not a late Bronze City 5. And unbeknownst to my opponent, Lorenzo Nigo actually writes about what? Jericho, in the middle of the page, Jericho, Tel El Sultan, late Bronze City 5. That's what this article is about in the late Bronze Age. That's what the initial thing was. So he and other scholars have suggested, oh yeah, Hatzor, yes, Yadin said that this was a destruction layer by the Israelites. Guess who else said it? Ben Tor. Both of the people he quoted. And my opponent does not seem to know the archaeological claims from the scholars. Last but not least, we have this situation. The evidence at most of these sites in the region do not explicitly contradict the biblical tradition. Thank you guys very much. I'm so glad that we had this debate. And by the way, Ami Mazar's work is currently and still was the academic standard for intro archaeology works for ancient Near East. Thank you very much. And Israel.
All right, I'll turn the floor back over to you, DMG. That was the end of our 3-minute closings. So on you.
Okay. And I want to say this. So Sid was right that in his debate, Zion went first. Now, they agreed upon that, and I'm looking at it now, and I can see that they thought that was the way it went. Now, this is the standard format for the Versus Series and the championship format for the Versus Series. This is from 5/15/2025, May 15th. This is the standard format, 3-minute opening for each participant, 2 rounds for each participant to present their arguments, one to explain their position and the other to refute or to rebut their opponent's argument or to continue breaking down their argument. Each round will be 10 minutes long. The participant who goes first in the first round will go first in the second round. The Q&A, the affirmative will go last in the Q&A, also known as the chin check session. Each participant will have 10 minutes to answer their opponent, to question their opponent. Keep in mind the participant asking the questions. Keep in mind it is the participant asking the questions time. If there's a stall in the action, the moderator may have to get involved to move it along, but it's up to each participant to mind their time. Each participant can stop their time a maximum of 3 times. After the Q&A, each participant will have 3 minutes to close out with the person who went first in the round section going last in the closeout section. It's the same for the championship format, except for the rounds will go from 10 minutes to 15 minutes. So I just wanted to make sure I was clear, because obviously I hadn't been in the past, and that's where the mix-up was. So I apologize to my brother Sid for that.
Okay, I apologize too. Yeah, because it's misunderstanding. We're all good. Now I got it though. So we switch it after the Q&A becomes a switch. I get it. Yeah,
correct.
That's good.
Correct.
That's fine. Yeah, I get it.
So right now we are waiting for the judges to render their decisions and get those to me. In the meantime, next week, we had to move it from yesterday to next week. We got Apollo Bay challenging KOT for the Versus Series social media title. Now, this thing has some implications outside of the fact that it's for the social media title, because the winner will be staring down the barrel at the one and only Pan Demas. Pan hit me up and said, hey, I want to make history. I want to be the first person to hold the Versus Series world title and the Versus Series social media title. So he will get the winner of next Saturday's matchup between KOT and Apollo Bay. The question at hand is the Messiah the pre-incarnation of the Lord of Hosts? So y'all be here next Saturday to check that out. And then the following week, we will have the long-awaited debate between Honey Clark and the steel stiletto queen. That's the barbarian queen, Honey Clark, and the steel stiletto queen. And just in case y'all forgot why we're here, this is Versus Series Prime. This is the series premiere. And I'm going to go check this inbox, see if the judges got their decisions back. In the meantime, let me remind y'all why this is the place to be on a bi-weekly basis.
This isn't your average debate. This is Prime, the flagship battleground of the Versus Series Debate League. Every legend started on a stage where words cut deeper than swords. Every 2 weeks, intellect meets intensity, logic meets legacy, and only one question remains. What's a titan to a legend? The Versus Series Prime, where legends are made.
Are you not in?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Look. Hating on me, don't stop. Only help a real cause. Hood legend on some pocket. Manifested till I'm living large. Eyeballing cause the sky falling. I'ma catch a little piece though. I ain't worried about your little. No, she easy as a free throw. She wanna hold me like ransom. Just cause I'm young and I'm handsome. Tell all these to have a seat. I know that they cannot stand them. Burn it and roll me another one. I do whatever I feel like. I remember when we dreamed about it. Woke up this morning, it's real life. Trade the whip, trade the currency. Moving like it's an emergency. We gotta check out, it's close to 11. So baby, ride it with some urgency. I'm just here for the fun part. Cause I'm good on the money part. I be leaving in the cold season.
All right, we are still waiting on the judges to render those decisions and get them to me. So I'm gonna ask y'all brothers, I'm gonna start with Cut 'em Up Court. How do you think the debate went? Where do you think you may have went wrong? You may have went right. What were your thoughts overall on the debate, my brother?
Yeah, I enjoyed tonight's debate. I wish my opponent wasn't so childish and trying to pander me in the midst of the cross-examination period. He completely dodged an abundance of questions, and he just tried to flim-flam, i.e. projection. He projected a crash out upon me, but we saw him crash out in the midst of that cross-examination period when I was asking questions.
Okay.
I thought I did a good job, by the way.
He say, I think I did a good job. Courtney, you being humble, brother. You being humble right now. It don't, hey, Courtney, it don't, humility does not suit you, my brother.
Better be humble.
I'm humble regardless of the results of tonight. You gotta understand, us barbarians, not only do we chop off heads, but if we ever lose a battle, we come back to make sure we win.
Okay, I got you. Said, what did you think of the debate? Where you may have went wrong, where you went right? Your overall thoughts.
I gave myself about a 7.5. It could have been a little bit more tighter in terms of my presentation. I pretty much anticipated everything Courtney was going to do, and I prepared for that within the frame framework of my rebuttals. They often claim that I'm not source, but if you go back and you look at the slides, everything is source. But I don't read out per se, because that consumes time, of course. But everything is there. Courtney, of course, he conceded debate from the moment he got here, off the rip, from the moment you flim-flam with the title. Obviously, I caught that was a way to attempt to escape his responsibility, which was obvious in the context of my text, right? I told you he was going to try and move the goalpost, which is not deal with the biblical narrative, right? From the moment you step away from what the text says, you have already conceded the debate. Right. So at that point, from his opening statement, he pretty much conceded the debate. It was a walk in the park. If we are going to entertain the academic arena, you are not going to attempt to overturn modern scholarship from a YouTube platform. Everything we do based on the consensus. Of course, when you're engaging from a apologist perspective, we get what he did. First, you attempt to undermine archaeology. They haven't found it yet. They ain't dig the whole cyanide. Why would they dig the whole cyanide when these people have documented where they were moving? Documented, right? We look in those areas specifically. And we corroborate how we're going to search based on the evidence and the knowledge we have of the New Kingdom, and that these were vassal states of Egypt. If you put Canaan in the New Kingdom, you're putting them in the vassal period of Egypt. There will be documentation of any type of exodus. If you have people by means of the biblical narrative needing to be 40 years in the wilderness, the argument from no evidence is mute. Even a group of 20,000 people, 40 years in any particular geography, will leave identifiable traits. As I said, he was going to use the argument of no evidence doesn't mean absent. Everything Courtney was going to do was predicted. Why? Because it's a no flim-flam season, and these arguments are outdated, old, and we need to get them up out of here. If we're having these debates in 2025, this is the last time. We know ain't no Red Sea party. We know no Exodus from Egypt. We know it's a national origin story. Stop it.
Can I make one more comment? My argument at all was not based on the absence of evidence doesn't prove the evidence of absence. My argument was there's indirect archaeological evidence that does exist for that corresponds with the biblical story of the Exodus. And if you'd like to double check the slides, I wasn't trying to.
When you try to show on over 900 years, when you try to show on over 600 years in our narrative, then you could do that. 1 minute it's the New Kingdom, 1 minute it's in the Old Kingdom, 1 minute it's in the 19th dynasty, the next minute it's you're all over the place. The Meneptah, you're all over the place. Your chronology was null and void, and that's why you couldn't actually talk about chronology. You just keep mentioning fragments, but a fragment here from a fragment later doesn't add up to one story.
Dynasty is
one of the judges has finally hit me up. One of the judges has finally hit me up.
And again, I said, I'm sorry for cutting you off, DMG. If anybody would like to see my slides, I simply shared them in the back chat.
All right, so listen, we're gonna go to judge number 1. All right, judge number 1 says Cedrick, Ortega, and Courtney both came in with solid work. Courtney had the stronger premise on paper, and laid his ideas out with a little more structure. But even with that, Cedrick ultimately argued his point and presented his evidence more masterfully. His delivery was sharper, his rebuttals were clearer, and he handled the pressure moments with real control. On top of that, Cedrick clearly won the chin check round. Courtney stayed organized, but Cedrick's ability to break down claims, expose weaknesses, and reassert his core argument gave him the edge. Overall, Cedrick walks away with the stronger performance and still the academic champion in my eyes. That is judge number 1. We are still waiting for judge number 2. Now, for those who don't know the way how this thing works, we have 3 judges watching any given debate. We then go to, is there an echo? I guess it's gone. We then go to once the first judge renders their verdict, we go to the second judge. If they are unanimous in their thought process in that they think the same individual won, we leave it at a unanimous decision. If they differ, one believes one debater won, the other believes the opposite one, then we go to the third judge to break said tie. Right now, judge number 1 has ruled in Cedrick's favor. We still await judge number 2's verdict. Judge number 1 said something about the internet lagging. No worries. We await the verdict from judge number 2. And I like this real-time judging format where we don't have to wait to get the verdict until a week out, or in some people instances a couple of weeks out. We can get it right here and now, but it do put a little pressure on the judges as far as they can't watch it later. They got to watch it in real time. And so I think in the past, when we would have to get the verdict like a week later, we had to sometimes allow the judges time to watch the actual matchups. In this instance, they have to watch in real time. So again, we are awaiting judge number 2's decision. In the meantime, y'all can check out the Versus series. Well, actually, no. You know what? Instead of going to ad, I'll let these brothers continue to chop it up because I did interrupt them for that judge.
Now you can play my music. I'm good.
Hey, that being said, then let's go to the Versus series intro, the current intro. Y'all know what it is, man. It's Mr. Debate Mania himself. I got the juice.
My name.
I got the juice, I don't sip on no flash. Still on the move, on the spirit of my gas. I'm on me, you can check out the glass. Never won't smoke, I'm prepared for the class. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fast charge. Got on my side, I don't got it at car. Pressure was real, the anointing been large. I walk in the light like a drip of a star. Cause I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice. Woke up in Walmart, I said of binding. Flesh in my ear like spit for the county. Spirit said chill, but the trigger was tempting. Whole lot of demons in the section I'm stepping. Brain got a drum or a hole like a stick. Bang for the Lord, every ride gon' hit. Close in slide, it was running like bait. I carry that text like a windshield whip. Flex that flex, fear said rest. I was 10 toes down in the spiritual test. Came from the dirt, still cleaner than most. Flesh won't toast, but the spirit won't boast. Devil told laws, I be catching that purr. That's over revenge, but the Lord says spur. Fast like collar with the engine on red. Put it in park after old me dead. I got the juice, I don't sip from no flash. Still on the move, on the spirit, my gas. I'm on me, you can check out the class. Devil won't smoke, I'm prepared for the class. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fast charge. But on my side, I don't got it at cause. Pressure was real, the anointing been large. I walk in the light like a drip of a star. Cause I got the juice, 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 Give me the juice, but it came with the blessing. Guess see many nights turn pain into blessing. This won't place, I just wanted confessions. The fear won't dip, so I dug through the lessons. Wasn't no cap in my name when I bow. Spirit said speak, so I prayed out loud. Over too slim, so I switched my crowd. Stepping with saints, not chasing the cloud. Spirit said spin, spirit said build. Flesh said feast, spirit said steal. Flesh said slide, spirit said kneel. Now I'm bulletproof, walking in the king's wheel. I got that gold like a Moses the sin. Bible in hand, that's a loaded in 10. All in my cup like it came from the prison. Ain't chasing no fame, just battle the flesh. I got the juice, I don't sip for no flash. Still on the move, on the spirit, my gas. I'm on me, you can check out the class. Devil won't smoke, I'm prepared for the class. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fast charge. But on my side, I don't got it at cause. Pressure was real, the anointing been large. I walk in the light like a drip of a star. Cause I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I don't sip from the flask. Holy Spirit, my gas. On me, you can check out the class. Devil won't smoke, I'm prepared for the clash. Juice in my veins like a post-fast charge. God on my side, I don't gotta act hard.
All right. And we have judge number 2. Now, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Judge number 2 sent me a lot. I'm not gonna hold y'all. I'm not gonna read all of this, but they sent me a lot. Courtney, if you want to see it, you can. Sid, if you want to see it, you can. And y'all let me know in the chat. I said something about this at one point, but I'm gonna repeat it here. If y'all want me to start putting these longer breakdowns up on the community page, I can, just so, you know, in the effort of being completely transparent. But judge number 2 has rendered their decision. Let's see where I can start. All right. Because they sent me so much, I'm gonna try to start at a place that makes sense. This is crazy. You know what? I'm just gonna read the ultimate decision because this is a lot. That being said, judge number 2 says Cedrick won this debate because his negative case relied on verifiable archaeological and academic sources, grounding his arguments in the same scholarly consensus found in works he cited, such as the Bible Unearthed, the Journal of Near Eastern Studies. Cedrick consistently used the Bible Unearthed as a source to lay out his argument consistently. I don't know if that was a typo or what. Like the Bible Unearthed, Cedrick emphasized that many biblical narratives, early kingdom histories, patriarchal, I can't talk, but I think y'all know what I'm trying to say. Where it go? Hold on. Patriarchal accounts, I don't know what that means. I guess the accounts of Moses and Joshua, etc., kind conquest narrative, centralized kingship timelines do not match the archaeological findings, undermining some of Courtney's affirmative claims about history and indirect evidence. Man, they sent so much. Bottom line is, Judge number 2 has rendered for Cedrick along with Judge number 1. And family, put a 1 in the chat if y'all want me to start putting this stuff on the community page, in particular when it's like this. And they send so much information that it's difficult to try to sift through all of it. But I do appreciate them taking the time to break down why they came to the conclusion that they came to. But ultimately, both judges ruled for Cedrick. Both judges felt that Courtney had a very strong performance and powerful information. For whatever reason, they felt Cedrick edged him out. Y'all know how we do. We're going to start with the challenger, talk about what the judge's decisions were, how he feels about it, and how soon we can expect or not expect to see him in the ring again. Cut him up, Court. You heard in part what the judges had to say. What say you?
Congratulations to you, Sid. I have no problem with that. I would like to inform everybody to please check the publication of the Finkelstein work and ask yourself, is that a peer-reviewed work? I guarantee you, when you actually find out that's not a publishing, academic peer-reviewed work, you'll notice that that's a popular level book. We did use many of the common sources, and that's fine with me. And I respect the judges, but just because a popular work is out there doesn't mean a higher level of academia has even more information as it relates to that popular level work. But I have no problem with that. Thank you very much for the judges. Cedrick, congratulations for your win.
All right. Cedrick, you heard what the judges had to say. You are still the reigning defending academic champion. What say you?
No flim flam season is in effect. I know the views are going to be coming. Go ahead. Everything is sourced. Everything is cited. Everything comes from the actual academic work. The flim flam is over. No more are people going to try and overturn scholarship from YouTube land. His syllogism. He proposed his syllogism. That's not academic work. Cherry picking academia isn't how this work is done. So you're going to either respect scholarship or not. But if you're coming to challenge me for the academic title, make sure your scholarship is in check. Because once you agree with the consensus, we got no arguments. But when you try to abuse and try to misuse academia to pull your narrative, you're going to have to deal with the pseudo slayer. Like I said, I'm playing with y'all pseudos. You got nowhere to hide. I'm coming for all y'all. Thanks to the judges. I'm going to continue to put in the hard work to bring accurate and good scholarship. I think I could do better in each debate. I sit and I review these debates, and I have to apologize. I didn't polish this debate as well as I did for my debate with Zion. But again, you rise to the occasion, and this was quite frankly easy work.
All right. Hey, y'all heard it here, man. Cedrick say he's still taking on all comers. Shout out to Cut 'em Up Court. I'm sure y'all will see him in the future. Powerful
quick comment.
Performance by that brother. Go ahead, Sid. Court.
Joshua, you're next.
Hey, Courtney say not only is he coming back, he want the devil head on a platter. I think Courtney trying to take Joshua's head back to the barbarian queen.
I find it quite hilarious. Somebody calling himself Lucifer or Satan says, give up the fairy tales. Isn't that ironic?
Interesting. I mean, Alanis Morissette, perhaps. This guy, Courtney, taking shots. Hey, man, this has been the first episode of Versus Series Prime. We will be bringing this to you every 2 weeks. We want to give the
shout out to Yeshua. I need to give a special shout out to Yeshua. I'm sorry, I need to do it. Shout out to Yeshua, the devil, Lucifer himself. Everybody got somebody who's working with him, and I shout out to my brother. Some of the stuff you saw there was because of our collaboration, and so I need to give him a shout out for his support and helping me in preparing this debate.
By the way, guys, his general comment is utterly false. Everybody out here doesn't need assistance. And you're supposed to be the academic belt holder. Interesting.
There goes the narratives again.
By the way,
the man who is part of a federation, the man who is part of a collective, complaining because I shouted out someone who assisted me in the debate. See, so now academic integrity, the fact that I'm not scared to actually give some recognition to academic support, because academia doesn't happen in vacuums, right? So I'm actually shouting out, and someone who doesn't have an academic background nor integrity thinks somehow that undermines my position. And that's why no flim flam campaign is in full effect.
Who doesn't have a background in the field? I've actually
no flim flam is in full effect. Loser, mute your mic. Now.
Hold on, y'all. Let's keep it cool. Listen.
Yeah, keep it cool.
We're gonna have a fallout show tomorrow at 6:15 p.m. A fallout show, the Versus Series Fallout. We're gonna talk about tomorrow afternoon's face-off between Honey Clark and the enigmatic Quinn, aka the Steel Stiletto. We're gonna talk about they face-off, and we're gonna talk about this very debate. Both of you brothers are cordially invited to jump on, and we can discuss things further, and I can let y'all loose. But for right now, a brother got to get out of here. Appreciate y'all for a powerful debate. Another successful title defense for Super Cedrick. And I know a lot of people don't like that for whatever reason, but it is what it is. Shout out to Cut 'em Up Courtney for calling out the baddest man on the planet right now, Lucifer, the devil. Hey, y'all know what it is, man. Paradigm Shift TV 314. We got Honey Clark and Quinn tomorrow with the face-off. Next Saturday, we got KOT versus Apollo Bay for the social media title. And hey, it's only getting bigger and better from here. The final word is next month. Hemi versus Joshua for the Versus Series World title. And whoever wins next week in that social media title match between KOT and Apollo Bay will be staring down the barrel at Pandemus at the final word. Paradigm Shift TV 314, y'all know what it is. It's your brother DMG the Poet, aka Brother Pianki. Salute to each and every one of y'all. We out of here. That is peace.
This isn't your average debate. This is Prime, the flagship battleground of the Versus Series Debate League. Every legend started on a stage where words cut deeper than swords. Every 2 weeks, intellect meets intensity, logic meets legacy, and only one question remains. What's a titan to a legend? The Versus Series Prime, where legends are made.
juice, I don't sip from the flash. Still on the move, on the spirit, my gas. I'm on me, you can check out the glass. Never won't smoke, I'm prepared for the class. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fat charge. Got on my side, I don't got it at card. Pressure was real, the anointing been large. I walk in the light like a drip of a star. Cause I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice. Open wall, my thoughts had a bind. Flesh in my ear like spit for the county. Bitch said chill, but the trigger was tempting. Whole lot of demons in the section, I'm stepping. Brain got a drum or a hole like a stick. Bang for the Lord, every ride gon' hit. Close and slide, it was running like that. I carry that text like a windshield whip. Flex that flex, feel that rest. I was 10 toes down in the spiritual test. Came from the dirt, still cleaner than most. Flesh won't toast, but the spirit won't boast. Devil told laws, I be catching that purr. That's over revenge, but the Lord says spur. Bash like collar with the engine on red. Put it in park after hold me dead. I got the juice, I don't sip from the flash. Still on the move, on the spirit, my gas. I'm on me, you can check out the glass. Never won't smoke, I'm prepared for the class. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fat charge. But on my side, I don't got it at card. Pressure was real, the anointing been large. I walk in the light like a drip of a star. Cause I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice. Give me the juice, but it came with the blessing. Get so many nights, turn pain into blessing. This won't place, I just wanted confessions. The fame won't dip, so I dug through the lessons. Wasn't no cap in my name when I bow. Spirit said speak, so I prayed out loud. Old crew slid, so I switched my crowd. Covered with saints, not chasing the cloud. Spirit said spin, spirit said build. Flesh said feast, spirit said steal. Flesh said slide, spirit said kneel. Now I'm bulletproof, walking in the king's wheel. I got that gold like a Moses to sin. Bible in hand, that's a loaded in 10. All in my cup like it came from the prison. Ain't chasing no fame, just battle the flesh. I got the juice, I don't sip from the flash. Still on the move, on the spirit, my gas. I'm on me, you can check out the glass. Never won't smoke, I'm prepared for the class. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fat charge. Got on my side, I don't got it at card. Pressure was real, the anointing been large. I walk in the light like a drip of a star. Cause I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I got the juice, I don't sip from the flash. Holy Spirit, my gas. On me, you can check out the class. Devil won't smoke, I'm prepared for the clash. Juice in my veins like I'm post-fat charge. God on my side, I don't got it at all.